From the moment we stepped foot into the great Illuminary, our path was laid out. With the casting of our first glimmers, we took on the mantle of Illumineers and were set on a collision course to this very moment. With the help of our mentor, we have mastered our craft, and our training has prepared us for the battle ahead. Together, we will put an end to Jafar's reign, and we will save Arcasia's island, and we will take back the crown. Welcome back to another episode of the Ink Table Podcast, a Lorcana podcast where a group of fellow Illumineers gather around the metaphorical ink table and share their table talk with you. So if you enjoy lore, art, a sense of community, comedic banter, or just all things Disney, then pull up a seat and join hosts Dylan Bailey and Preston McNair as they discuss the upcoming battle with Jafar.
Oh, I feel like we started last episode by going, it's been a long week, hasn't it?
It really kind of has. And today's been kind of long.
Yeah, definitely. We got a lot to talk about, but man, what y'all didn't see is a little bit of technical issues before the podcast on Dylan's side, going Alvin in the chipmunk mode, but we're here. No, I'm excited to be back at the table.
Yeah, it's great to be back. But before we start today, I think that we got some special announcements and thank yous that we want to go ahead and get out of the way. First and foremost, we'd like to thank Lorcana Chats, who is another fellow Illumineer who does some really great interviews with Lorcana content creators and collectors and anybody and everybody within the Lorcana community. And they actually reach out to us for us to make an appearance on their podcast. That episode is available on their YouTube, and you guys can go and watch it along with any of the other interviews that they've done with some really great Illumineers like JDZ, Rebecca Quest, and I think that they're actually starting something new on where they'll be streaming on Twitch. I think it started as a one episode where it's called an ice cream social, where they got a group of Illumineers together. I think they've done that twice. They enjoyed it so much the first time, they did it a second time. And since then, it's grown to where they're going to be doing a whole Twitch thing from it and stream, from what I understand. So shout out to that. And then Reign of Jafar, we're here.
Yeah, we are combating. I will say combating, Jafar. We are fighting for the crown, and we'll talk about that too. But before we started recording, I tried to take back the crown. Yeah, it's a pretty good challenge.
I haven't even tried yet.
Yeah, it's gonna. We'll talk about it later, but yeah, we are hot and heavy in Reign of Jafar. So it's.
But the past week, Reign of Jafar has been awesome. Starting last weekend with sealed events, and big shout out to our local LGS, the Boardroom, who put on the normal one that we go to and their sister store both put on different sealed events that we attended both, and the whole crew, I mean, they're just always so awesome. Josh, Kayla, Brandon, Landon, I mean, everybody, they're great, and hopefully they're listening. But they were kind enough to actually go out of their way and post about us on their own social media of like, hey, check out this podcast that our local Illumineers are doing. So shout out to them. We really appreciate it, guys. We hope you're listening, and we love everything you do for us. And hopefully this podcast that started in your stores around table talk that happened thanks to you guys can now be heard and through everybody who's listening, and everybody can grow along with us with their own table talk here.
Yeah, it's a long weekend. There's a lot of hard work that goes into it too. So a lot of product moving around. So we really appreciate it.
Then our last big shout out here, I think, is to all of you. I mean, we've only been doing this for around 6 months now, and we have like a monthly cadence. I mean, if you're here, you're listening, you probably know that we upload around once a month, and we're not regularly posting like other content creators and stuff are. So it was such a big deal whenever we finally reached 100 subscribers here on YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube. And it's one of our favorite platforms to be, no offense, audio listeners, but we really like everything that goes into these YouTube videos and these podcasts and the visuals behind it. We really like the way it looks and everything that John does on the back end through OBS and just making us look really, really nice. Hopefully we sound nice too. And therefore, once we reach 100 subscribers, I mean, even with just posting once a month, we've been able to try to fine tune and pinpoint some of the best parts of these podcasts because we know that they can get long, especially when you're only doing it once a month. So we don't expect everybody to hang out with us around the ink table the entire hour and a half, 2 hours, however long it is. So hopefully that's something that we do more often, or we're going to at least try to, is to pinpoint some of those best conversation topics or points that we had and create them into some short form videos. That way everybody can go over it when in your free time if you don't have the time to listen to the whole podcast episode or watch it. And you can just find your favorite parts about the things that you want to hear about and watch those. It seems to be working because we had really good traffic on those clips.
Oh yeah, it's
And
working. It's working really well, especially if in the chapters too. We're analytical. We see you all clicking for the chapter beginning marks too. So if you are an audio listener, we do take the highlights and put them on our YouTube channel and whatnot. But yeah, I think there for one point it was what we were doing, like uh, almost like 200% more watch time and views per month or something like that. There, I think the week leading up to Reign of Jafar, it was crazy in terms of traffic. So no, I'm glad it's working, and I'm glad that you folks are enjoying it.
I mean, because that's what it's all about is you guys. And as a thank you for everything, we've kind of came together and done something what we think is special. Because we only get together around this ink table about once a month, there's so much news that we don't get to cover in between as it's happening. And we always have to wait for our schedules to line up to get together. I mean, we are, as Preston said, we're three working members of society. So this isn't a career that we've built our entire selves around. So we have decided to open up our Discord server to the public, to you guys. That way, everybody, all times, not just once a month, but anytime something is going on, you can be there interacting with us. We can interact with you, and we can keep this table talk going nonstop, 24/7, 7 days a week. Holidays, rain or shine, it doesn't matter. We no longer have to wait for the podcast itself to upload. You will still get a podcast at least once a month, or at least that's the goal. But now you have another way that our little community that we can grow. And that link will be in the description of everything. It'll be on all of our socials. I think as at this moment, like as we posted, we've already posted it in the socials, and there's already been a few people actually click on and join the Discord.
Yep.
So
No,
so
it's impressive, and again, we're a small community, but the Discord server initially started as a private, just us and our friends and family and whatnot, and we have our cert channels and whatnot, and we fine tuned it a little bit. We created some servers. Now that being said, we're still working through the quirks because Dylan and I have beat our heads across the community onboarding and the rules and everything. So we think we have it at a pretty good polishing point, but just like I mentioned right before, literally as the intro was rolling, we are still working through things. We're still figuring things out. So we at least have everything there, but it's fun to bring this as well because a lot of our own local players are inside the server. We've already seen a few of you folks navigate their way in, so it'll be a fun way to do it. You'll still get your notifications. We'll post whenever we put new clips up, in addition to social media and everything else. But we did do it a day early from where you all are listening to this. We didn't want to bombard y'all's feeds with news and stuff like that. And big announcement. And I know we got one coming up, and I think we'll save that for the next episode probably. But yeah, we're trying to time it right. But I'm having fun with it. Dylan and his Discord bots, and you get loyalty and different roles and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
So just going over some of the highlights of the Discord server in which you guys will actually be getting. It's not just a general talk hanging out with us, but we are trying to build a community, which I mean we've been doing from the beginning. And again, that's all thanks to you guys. So some of the cool things and cool ideas that we have are you'll have your normal chat where everybody can hang out and talk. You'll also have just a collector's corner where you can show off your collection, your pools, or anything in that manner. And we have a place where everybody can get together with their deck ideas, whether they be meta decks, creative fun decks, theme decks, whatever, and you can show off the decks that you've been playing. We have a 24/7 hour lo-fi channel where you can just chill, relax, deck build, play with your friends, and listen to some lo-fi music. Or my favorite part about the whole thing is we have actually integrated an XP system. So the more you engage, the more you react, the more you discuss, and the more that you help build this community, you will earn XP. And the more XP you earn, you will then level up. And as you level up, you will be rewarded with rolls that are based upon the rarities within Lorcana. So from common all the way up to what will be iconic. And kind of a coveted thing in my head or my idea. So it'll be a while, I think, before anybody reaches that in the Discord. I don't like none of us, like out of the three of us, me, Preston, and John, are even close to doing that. But my idea is to those members who have went above and beyond and have stuck with us long enough to reach that level, I would like to do something special for. So I want to try to create the iconic club or club iconic, kind of like the 99 club that you see in
The
sports
nine.
and sports video games. So it's everybody who has been with us through and through from the beginning to wherever we are at that time, and you truly are iconic.
Yeah, definitely. No, a little way to take this further and whatnot, continue to build the community and whatnot. So, a good chunk of announcements to kick off our episode. So I want to thank Dylan too, because it takes two to tangle with Discord moderation things and whatnot. I've done it years ago, but then now it's all these integrations. So it's been fun. So again, link in the description. If you're on audio, check out our link tree and whatnot. It'll be plastered everywhere in all the episodes. So feel free to invite folks as well. We'll keep things rolling. But we are coming down. I would say we're coming down off the release weekend of Reign of Jafar, but we are now a week and a few days into the LGS release of Reign of Jafar. Big box retailers did have their release on Friday, so just 2 days ago. But as with every set release, we like to talk about our experience at sealed events. But the elephant in the room, those enchanted pools, they were on fire that night and throughout the entire weekend. Dylan, you had the count, but between us and everyone at the store, we saw how many enchanteds pulled at some point? Like, what was the final count? I totally forget.
At a minimum of 6 that I know of.
6 enchanteds between sealed events, within product sold by our local game shop and whatnot. So I remember looking over and I used to see Dylan holding shiny, and I'm the guy that brings Dragon Shield Perfect Vits and top loaders to League every week because you never know. So Dylan's pulling this thing, and he hasn't even asked for one. I'm just like, please sleeve this, like please put this in a sleeve and everything. So Dylan, what was obviously, again, folks, enchanteds, they're not guaranteed and whatnot. I wish we had the photos here and whatnot, but Dylan, what enchanteds did you end up getting from release product and sealed events? What was your accounts? Or what was your cards, rather?
So, what I typically purchase on a normal set release is I get a Trove and 2 boxes if I can afford it. Sometimes we'll get more. Like last set, we got a case because at the time, we were fortunate enough to be able to afford that. But we got a Trove and 2 boxes. We went ahead and opened the Trove, and I think it was like the 3rd pack into the Trove, we ended up pulling the Enchanted Cusco from this set, and don't know if it's visible,
Oh, there we
but
go.
we'll have that. Yeah, we'll have that there. So pulled Cusco, and then Sealed event happens, and we're always excited during Sealed when somebody pulls an Enchanted. The guy sitting across from me, who I think that was the first time that I had ever played with him, that he showed up. I'm terrible. I'm terrible because I forget his name, but they have an Etsy store, and I will remember that Etsy store because they're the kind of people that are making the deck boxes out of the VHS tapes. I'm gonna
That's
try to
cool.
find that. I'm gonna find it, and I'm gonna put that link in our description and stuff for them since I'm terrible with names and I forget. But he ended up pulling the enchanted sword. What a
Oh
old dude.
goodness. Give me
Oh,
2 seconds. The
again,
sword of
names.
something. Hold on. Sword.
Sean Lee,
Shan Yu.
Sean Yu.
SHANYU.
Okay, so he pulls it, and then sealed event ends. Spoilers on how sealed went, but some of us did get products at the end of sealed because we were given like extra packs, and I think somebody in this little group here ended up pulling an enchanted from that.
Yep. So the only one that I pulled, again, we do, me and my wife, we do the sealed events. We get a box, we get a trove. That's usually it. We really don't buy additional product outside of there. We'll get a few packs every now and then, but the prize for that was I got one pack, and in that one pack, I'm just like flipping through, yeah, whatever. But because the probability of getting an enchanted in one loose pack is fairly low, right? But there was Stitch, Experiment Stitch 626, just in the back. And the guys here know that I get excited over shinies, but it's even better if it's like in a one-off pack where you just don't expect it. Like I would almost expect a higher probability mentally of pulling it in a trove or a box because you're opening more product. But whenever you pull an enchanted from just the one-off pack you get for participation at league or it's sealed for winning, that was awesome. So that was the only one that I ended up pulling that weekend. But then that night, somebody unboxes their product and gets what, John? What did you get again?
I got the same thing that you did. I got a Stitch as well. So, yeah, it was like third pack into the first box or something like that. So, it was all downhill from the rest of the case. But
So then not to talk all about collections and enchanters, but then our second sealed event rolls around, and I'm sitting right next to Dylan, and then I hear him go, "Uh-oh, what'd you pull?"
Well, the night before, whenever I opened my
Oh, that's
product,
right.
I
Yeah.
pulled. Yeah, I know, right? There was so many that we're like losing track. So it's like Preston pulled his Stitch at the end of the sealed event. John goes home, opens his boxes, pulls a Stitch. I open my two boxes, and I get the Enchanted Rapunzel. Not sure if that shows up too well or not. And then, like Preston said, we go back to the next sealed event the next day. And yeah, it was a big uh-oh on our end. I'm sitting next to like the biggest Blurple player I know. And I hit on everyone's chase into the unknown. So I'm like three
Beautiful.
enchanteds in one weekend. I mean, this is the most luck I've ever had pulling enchanteds. And someone said, one of our friends at the boardroom, he looks at me and he's like, "It's luck, but it's not luck. It's the universe making things right." Because if you've been with us long enough, then you know that a few months back, my vehicle was broken into, and a lot of my cards and like one of my favorite decks and everything was stolen, and I'm still getting cards and recovering from that. So to him, it was like a, hey, listen, this is a sign. This is like a good sign that like the universe is doing its due diligence and making things better. And I hope that's the case. But at the end of the day, I would trade them all in. I would trade all three of these enchanters in for one of those iconic cards next to that.
Oh, we're not there yet. But yeah, it's
Ravensburger had their way.
yeah, if only, I think it's like they were giving us a little bit of luck because we're not seeing that iconic. But never say never. But no, like the pulls were hot. Like, we went through a drought of not pulling an enchanted between Azurite Sea and Arcasia's Island. We didn't see a single enchanted, and then now we have the Stitch. And the art on the, we talked about this in the last episode and in our conversation with Lorcana chats, but the art is just incredible. Very, very happy with all of that. I'm glad the Enchanteds were dispersed between the community. It's us. It was a few players and whatnot. So yeah. But no, the Enchanted boards were hot. Let us know if your luck was like that, because obviously, it's just fate. It is what it is. But Sealed itself, we have talked about this before, that Sealed is our favorite format. It's my favorite format. I know for a fact it's Dylan's favorite format.
Oh yeah.
But going into Sealed and playing Sealed, we had some interesting data, and this isn't inside of our notes or anything, but there's this one YouTuber, his name's Knives Nerd Corner or something like that. And the week before Sealed comes out, they talk about, strength per ink, willpower per ink. They talk about how many bodyguards and evasives were inside each set and whatnot. And they mentioned that it was going to be a fairly evenly distributed Sealed format, with there's a good amount of bodyguards, there's a good amount of evasive characters. But I'll talk about my format and my experience in a second, because I kind of struggled a little bit with this Sealed format, but I want to hear Dylan's take, because again, both Dylan and myself, we did end up in that top percentage where we got additional packs. But we'll talk about MVP cards, but just a general feeling of Sealed. Was this the best Sealed yet? Is it how did your experience go?
I think it was genuinely. I hate to hear that you struggled a little bit with it. To me, where it was so evenly dispersed, it really didn't matter if you lucked into a bunch of cards or not. I mean, it still is what it is. If you or your opponent pulls one really good card, that's not necessarily going to change the entire game or the entire format. But where it was so evenly dispersed, I think that it really did come down to this skill of deck building and being able to play the cards off of each other, especially in ways, because Sealed gives you the options to be able to play cards off of each other that you normally wouldn't otherwise get to see in standard core format. My biggest, I don't even want to say issue, but complaint, I guess, was the number of one drop cards that hit for two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's the only thing I really struggled
yeah,
with. The
yeah,
games, they definitely went a little longer, because I don't think people were able to necessarily get that board present early game, because most of the one drops only hit for one or they hit for nothing. And I think the only ones that really stood out and could were maybe the reprint of Captain Hook and the Royal Guard, who gets +1 or Challenger +1 when you draw a card.
yeah.
There might be
I
another one I'm missing.
you mentioned something that I resonate pretty well with. Is I felt like a lot of my struggles is I found myself going up against pretty big bodies that took 2-3 turns to break through. I specifically remember that Minnie Mouse bodyguard where she's a 0/8, but then she gets +1 for each 1 damage on her. Like, I was like, I have to hit her as hard as I can first, because otherwise she's just going to be taking everything out. So I think this is the first Sealed event where a few of my matches actually went to time, and we had to do the whole turn 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If they didn't go to time, we were probably within a minute from going to time. I remember playing Dylan's wife, and we had maybe 2 minutes, and and I just had the perfect curve and whatnot. But I remember just having very big beefy barriers to bust through. The Aladdin, for example, that heals himself with an ally quest. Like, it was a lot of it comes down to, yeah, your skill with deck building, but also just the luck of the draw, really. There was really, and I agree with Dylan, there was really no one card that kind of busted the entire Sealed thing. It was just purely what you drew into, and what you get, and how to break through. And some things I just had a very hard time busting down. But it was still fun without a doubt. I learned that Thumper is Thumper, and I'll say that. In that format was wild, playing against Thumper.
Well, I think that goes back to what you were talking about. Is in this sealed, Thumper was that he's 2 cost, right? 2 cost, and you exert him, and you can give chosen character +3 attack.
Mhm.
Okay, so we have all of these small bodies, these 1-drops that don't hit for 2, they hit for 0 or they hit for 1, but they might have a higher willpower. Same with the other 2 costs and stuff that were coming out. So when you played against a Thumper, Thumper really did a good job of being able to boost your small bodies to get through those bodyguards that were pretty prevalent in this set.
Yep. Yeah, it was Thumper put in work, and Dylan saw me pull off a Thumper and then a Sing Together Nothing We Won't Do, and was able to bring, because I remember asking Dylan, I was like, can Thumper give this to himself? And he's like, yes. Like, just like very like, what are you doing? So Thumper gave him the strength, and then I had the remaining of my characters sing Nothing We Won't Do, so I was able to ready Thumper and actually have him do something. That was probably the coolest combo I pulled off that entire weekend. But John, your experience with Sealed last weekend, how we feeling?
Sealed is always terrible for me. I never do good in sealed. I just don't. I don't think I won over the whole 2 days worth of doing it. I won 2 games.
But Mickey Mouse.
Well, yeah. The only cool thing that I did get to do was I had the jeweled collar on the Friday night one, and I had the 10-10 10 cost Mickey Mouse bodyguard, which unfortunately Amanda kept taking out my characters on the board, so I just kept getting ink into my inkwell, and she didn't realize that I had the Mickey Mouse. So then when I got up to 10, I played the Mickey Mouse, and then she panicked. And
It starts putting everything into the Mickey Mouse.
and she swung everything into the Mickey Mouse after she'd already played 3 other cards, so I ended up wiping her entire board, which I had already won that game anyway, or that game. But yeah, I mean, it was fun. I mean, I always enjoy sealed because it's a lot of times I get to play cards that I don't get to play, but most of the time. Like this time, most of mine were all 1 and 2s, maybe some 3s. I didn't get a whole lot of cards that I could do a whole lot with. Yeah.
My stack of 3 costs was insane.
Yeah. So.
That was
The curve was insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. The curve was wild. So MVP picks. Now, normally we would talk about what we're playing because most of us played at our local game shop yesterday, our first weekend of Core Constructed, but we're still figuring things out. But sealed MVPs, one thing we always like to do. Dylan, your MVP picks from sealed last weekend for Reign of Jafar release. We got 2 here, I think.
Yeah, so the first really stood out on Friday, and it was Faylene Playful Fawn. So she is a 4-cost uninkable card. She is a 2/4 with evasive. She normally quests for 1, but while you have a character in play with more strength than each opposing character, she gets +2 lore. So not only is she evasive, so hard to even hit in a sealed format because there's not too many cards that are sealed, or even if you're lucky enough or your opponent is lucky enough to pull into one. But again, it all goes back to those low strength characters. There were a lot of them. Even like some of the bigger body characters had low strength. So if you were fortunate enough to get a character out with even 3 strength, a lot of times you were able to hit on this secondary ability that allows her to get the +2 lore.
Mm-hmm.
So you're able to quest for 3 and have no fear questing for 3 because where she's evasive, your opponent most of the time had nothing that could even swing back into her.
Yep. And the amount of times I called this Bambi, like I just saw the deer and I was like, Bambi, it's the close enough. But also, I know we talked about Thumper, but Thumper could also be very helpful in sealed in this situation to help one of your characters reach that threshold to be the strongest character on board to make failings ability resolve. So I don't know if you're running Thumpers in that to help resolve that, but I know that's one thing we saw a couple people do.
Yep. And then my second pick It's a really, really cool card that I'm hoping that more people actually play. It is Everybody's Got a Weakness. This is a 4-cost inkable amethyst action. Unfortunately, it's not a song, but it's a pretty powerful card. So it goes back to moving damage. You can move 1 damage counter from each damaged character that you have in play to chosen opposing character, and then draw a card for each damage counter you move this way. The only downfall outside of this not being a song is you can't split those damage counters up. You have to move them onto chosen opposing character rather than being able to split them among different characters. But with that being said, if a character only has 2 willpower and you have 3, 4, 5 characters in play that each have a damage counter, you're moving those damage counters simultaneously, not one at a time. So you can technically throw 5 damage counters on it all at once in order to draw your 4 or 5 cards, whatever, even if it exceeds their willpower. And then once it goes through, that character would be banished.
And not only that, but this solves with this card, you get 2 very powerful elements in sealed. You get the ability to at least damage or take care of evasive characters, which is huge. So if you don't have evasives to challenge another evasive, you can at least move the damage. And 2 is card draw, because card draw, I would say most sealed matches ultimately end up in a top deck type situation. So being able to thin through your deck, that is just 2 very powerful components to have in sealed.
Well, that's my 2 picks. What are your 2 picks, Preston?
So removal was pretty hard inside this format. So my first one is actually going to be Light the Fuse. Again, in sealed there are no ink restrictions. You play with whatever you have, so as a reminder. But Light the Fuse is a ruby steel card, 1-drop uninkable, which is where you can deal. It's an action, and you deal 1 damage to chosen character for each exerted character you have in play. So again, like I mentioned, removal was pretty difficult inside this format. I think this is the set where we had the least amount of removal. We had Get Out, which is a ruby sapphire card, and allowed you to bring an item back from your discard and banish chosen characters like Dragonfire. Captain Hook obviously is a very strong challenger on turn 1. This was really good once I was able to establish a board presence and then handle things like the evasives or any sort of big threats that would pop up inside the match as well. So removal, I would know we talked about how dealing with evasives and card draw is valuable. Well, any sort of removal is equally as valuable in sealed. You're able to just handle a threat to some degree, especially if you're playing this turn 3, turn 4. You're looking at even 2, 3 damage potentially, depending on how many characters you have exerted. So Light the Fuse, Mulan, pulling back Mushu here, phenomenal art too, just very fun art to look at. So Light the Fuse being the first one.
So outside of sealed, do you think this card could possibly be a replacement in a normal Ruby Steel deck for Strength of Raging Fire?
If it gets reprinted, that being the main thing. Maybe I don't play strength. I built a deck yesterday that has strength in it, so I'm starting to relearn steel again a little bit. But potentially, I think what's going to happen. We'll talk about Fabled in a little bit, but I think what's going to happen is we're going to have cards like this that have the potential to become very commonly seen, depending on what gets reprinted. So I hate to think about that, but in current, I would probably lean on the no. I think about me and my wife's Ruby Steel right now, and I just have too many other things that I don't know. Maybe a good one of. I'm not too sure. I know strength. Strength is obviously the better card in my opinion because it's singable, right? And it's inkable, a little bit more expensive. But I don't know. Like it depends on what flavors of Ruby Steel we see pop up. I don't know. That's my initial thought around that. My second card though is one that came in clutch a lot of times, and that is actually going to be Darling Deer, the beloved wife, a amber card, 5 cost inkable, 4 strength, 4 willpower, questing for 1, with the ability when you play this character, chosen character gets +2 lore this turn. I was able to combine this up with a Bolt that interplayed exerted, questing for 4, and Bolt was questing for 6 that next turn. Giving +2 lore to anything is great because in sealed, you need a very clear objective to get to 20 lore. Plain and simple. Like that is your end goal. You will eventually end up top decking, and things will get weird. So I think it's important for folks to remember for future sealed events that I'm always thinking about, can my cards stand on their own, and can they help me push forward the objective of 20 lore? And being able to drop Darling Deer even on a 1 lore quester was still great, right? And also a really good body in sealed too, a 4 strength, 4 willpower. So took out a lot of threats and was able to hopefully survive them as well. So I feel like this is like the sweet spot of like strength willpower. It's like most anything you're challenging against, except like the one-off Mickey Mouse or something like that. A challenge is going to be very, very punishing, but also her effects on entry. So you don't have to wait for an exert ability or anything like that. So this just helped me push that objective to 20 a lot quicker, especially if I had a 2 or even a 4 count, a 4 lore questing Bolt that I was able to give this to. So just helped me get across the finish line a lot quicker.
I think that's a card that John really likes too, that he plans on trying to run in his puppy deck.
Yep, it's in there.
Oh, it's in there. Okay, all right, there we go. So puppies, and again, puppies are kind of like an aggro in a sense, and I can see that helping along the way. But John, I know that we talked about Mickey and Jewel Collar, but were those your standouts, or what's your picks?
Yeah, I mean those were my standouts that I got. A jeweled collar, I think, man, that card just scares the crap out of me. As a, I mean, it's a 2 cost item. It's whenever one of your characters is challenged, you may put the top card of your deck in your inkwell face down exerted. As somebody who doesn't run a deck that ramps, when it actually happened, it was like, okay, I get this, and I'm just going, oh crap. As somebody who who likes to run a pirate deck that's go go go, kill, it's like, oh, this would be really bad because they would just have 15 ink on me before turn 4. It would be bad. So, but yeah, that one was really. I'm surprised. I will not be surprised to see that in a lot of green blue decks for ramp. I mean that to get that.
I don't
Mickey
know,
out,
because I was getting ready to say.
Oh, okay.
Plus side there is it was great and sealed, but in normal core constructed, I don't know how often we'll actually see it. I mean, we just played against, or maybe not played against, but we saw 3 different Emerald Sapphire decks at our league on Saturday, and not a single one was running Emerald Collar. They were still running Tipo for ramp and their normal cards that they typically run.
Yeah, okay. Well, I wasn't there, so I didn't get to see the new stuff, unfortunately.
I shouldn't have said anything. I should have let you live in fear then.
You should have, but now I'm not afraid anymore, so it's fine. Now I can sleep at night. No.
But moving on from our weekend, I think that this idea of sealed kind of is like lingering with us because of some crazy news that came out since our last podcast. So during one of the lorecasts, they actually came out and they revealed the formats of, I guess, just the game formats of what will be played during the Lorcana Worlds that is taking place June 28th and 29th. And the first of those formats, which nobody saw coming, is Super Sealed.
Just whenever I thought we couldn't get like even crazier with formats and whatnot, this came out of left field. I was like, what? Like, break it down. What are those top competitors gonna have to do in Super Sealed? This excites me.
Whether they like it or not, which I know that there are quite a few who, I mean, we'll get to the wrap up and we'll talk about these formats and how we feel about them when we get to talking about the two formats themselves. But Super Sealed, you take 60 minutes to build a 50 card minimum deck, so 10 more cards than the normal sealed. And typically in a sealed event, you are not restricted to the type of ink or the ink colors that you can use. So you can use any ink colors you want, as many copies of a card as you want, unless it's Glass Slipper. In this format, they will be restricted to 3 ink colors, but they will have 16 packs to open compared to the normal 6. It will be 4 packs of Shimmering Skies, 4 of Azurite Sea, 4 of Arcasia's Island, and 4 of Reign of Jafar. So 60 minutes, 50 card minimum deck, 3 ink colors, and then they will play their games as normal from there with that. The big difference is this is the first time that Lorcana is introducing a sideboard. So you're playing a best of 3 series. Let's say you play your game 1 and you don't like how things went during game 1, or even if you won game 1. You then have the option to take some cards from your sideboard and then add them to your deck. The only requirement is they have to match one of your 3 primary ink colors that you chose there in the beginning. And then when your entire match is over, you have to revert back to like your starting deck that you built, that you wrote on your registration sheet saying, "Hey, this is the deck that I'm using or that I'm working with today." Pretty crazy.
That's a lot to dissect, and it's important to note as well that this is the Swiss. This is going to be like the first round of competition. So this format will not determine the grand champion, if you will. This is just what those competitors are going to initially play before they get into the next format, which we'll talk about. But that's wild. You know, we kind of had a clue to sideboards previously. I believe in the Play Hub, was it? There's a mention to sideboard. I don't know if it was directly connected to this, but I do know that somewhere in the Ravensburger Play Hub there was a mention to sideboard. But I think they are doing it right. And for those who may not be familiar, sideboards are common in other games. I don't know. I know that they're there, but I know that they exist. I think they're doing it right. I think they're introducing the sideboard concept because, again, it's sealed product that you can't control what you're going to get. So, thoughts on the sideboard part of this?
I think it should have always existed in a competitive format. Even at normal set championships, I think it should still exist. There are just some matchups that whenever you take a deck, you're not meant to win that matchup. You are going up against a direct counter. So whenever you go up against that direct counter and you play your game 1 and you realize, okay, this isn't working, that's whenever you should be able to sideboard in some counters, some stuff that you typically wouldn't run in your deck that you have sideboarded specifically just for these matchups or these type of games. Whether it means you have to go more aggro or you have to put in some more aggressive play style that allows you to take out some bigger characters. I mean, I genuinely think it should be implemented across the board on all levels.
Yeah. So there's been a little bit of, I don't want to say hot topic in the community, but one of the things I think we initially thought were discussing internally was, you know, why didn't other DLC events utilize this format? And I think from a logistical standpoint, well, one, I think it would be fun to see in a competitive DLC type environment, but logistically, I think it'd be very hard to take, if we use Atlanta, for example, 2,000 people maintaining the integrity of the deck lists and the sideboard. I think that would be quite the feat. But I will say this, I do like the fact that and this is just me personally, but I do like the fact that in order to be crowned a Lorcana World Champion, you also have to flex your muscle a little bit in a sealed format. So I do like how that is a component of this World Championship format. And I know Dylan was talking about this in the Discord whenever this initially happened, but Dylan was like, if this was like the DLC Swiss format, he's like 80% confidence rate would have done it. It's like I have full faith that Dylan would have made day two if they had the logistics in place to do something like this for all those people.
I mean, just the past weekend at the first sealed event, I came in second. I was tied with the guy who came in first, and he came in first based on opponent's win percentage. And then the second sealed event, I ended up winning. I truly love sealed, and it blows my mind that they are having this in the World Finals, and that the first ever Lorcana World Champion will be not solely based off of this, but sealed or super sealed in this form will play a huge role into determining who even goes into day two and gets out of Swiss. And not only am I mind blown by it of wow, this is crazy. I think I have full confidence that I could have done this and I could have made day two, but it's almost, I don't want to say the opposite, but there's a lot of players who have went to these DLCs, and it's you've seen it and you've heard it all across the community. All of these players who, whether you did qualify for Worlds or not, you went to these DLCs and these events playing core constructed. You didn't play sealed, and now all of a sudden you have to play in a format that you aren't used to playing at a competitive build, because does that even really exist until this point? And then all of a sudden you're thrown into this, and whether you become the champion or not, all lies on this sealed event first and foremost. And
And
why didn't they have this at DLCs?
right, and to me, I think it's a logistic thing. I think just it. There's the head judge for PPG who did all the North American judging for the championships and whatnot. There is a very good interview. I forget what show they were on, but they did a really good interview. And this individual, whose name unfortunately is failing me, he talked about the logistics of organizing the judging, how they had secret judges, they had secret judges for judges, they had chain of custody for top competitors' decks. For me, I just maybe one day it'll be able to be a thing, but logistically, making sure that, let's say if we take 2,000 people, making sure that they keep their ink color in the 3 ink domain, and also checking that you would always have to do a deck list check after every single match. I think that would be very
even if you
hard.
saved super sealed, and if you saved super sealed for Worlds and just did a regular sealed event, like even if it's not Swiss, but you did a sealed event at DLCs in this manner to help prep that. I mean, again, it's not super sealed, so it's not the exact format. I think logistically that would still be hard too, like talking about it out loud, because that's like still 6 packs a piece for how many players?
Oh yeah, like hundreds. I mean, there's easily 75 people in the seal that I participated in. So yeah, it's
And
a
as
lot of
much as we don't like to talk about it, there are things within the community that we have seen come out of these DLCs where there has been some misconduct from players. And if a sealed event was to occur and you knew that it was happening, then how could you maintain that integrity and make sure that every player is only using cards that came from those 6 packs they opened?
it'd be hard. Unless they are able to know what's in the packs, but then that opens up a whole can of worms. And yeah, but something before we move on to the next one, something interesting came up because one of our local players reached out to Dylan and myself and was like, "Hey, like, is this something we're going to see at our own LGS?" And I'm like, "It would be fun, but it'd be very expensive. I think before tax, roughly 112 USD, roughly." So. I don't know if I would want to go on a weekend and play in a tournament that is super sealed, but could this be something that LGSs could adopt potentially? This format, maybe have additional pricing?
I can see one-off events happening around
Sure.
Worlds. Same way that we'll see different watch parties and stuff happening. Like I know that there's a big watch party that's getting ready to take place down in Austin. Um, it's actually the Illumineers and Lorcana Heat and another group actually working together to put on a huge watch party for Worlds. So we'll get stuff like that, and you'll have these one-off events. But like you said, that's a lot of money. I mean, we're sitting here, we're spending anywhere between $20-$35 for a regular sealed event, depending on your LGS pricing,
Mhm.
and that's 16 packs
It's a lot.
per player. I mean, at that point, you might as well just buy a box.
Box.
And
You're 8 packs short of a box, I think, at that point. So yeah, I mean, you might as well buy a box. But no,
I think my final thought on it before moving on to the world final part or the second format is I am so happy that it is super sealed and not super pack rush.
Listen, we like our pack rush. I do pack rush on occasion if I meet up with people on a one-off, but yeah, I like sealed. I know we know that pack rush is the official Ravensburger, launch event format, but yeah,
That's the thing, though, right? Is how is it that Ravensburger is going to send out this stuff to these LGSs recommending? Again, it's up to your LGS at their discretion how they do these launch events. But Ravensburger, for the past two, has recommended that your LGS uses a pack rush format. But then all of a sudden, Worlds is taking place, and the champion is going to be based off of a super sealed format.
I don't know. Well, we'll see how it plays out. We only got 20 days until the live stream, so. But that's one of our two formats, Dylan. One that I know we've had to wrap our heads around a little bit. But we need a new constructed format?
Yeah, so the biggest one of all that is going to it'll be the big one that everybody watches. This reminds me of Evo on the fighting scene of having two teams going back and forth at it. This will be day 2 what decides the world champion and what decides who the best Illumineer is. Because not only did you have to show off your capability of deck building in a sealed format, but now even more so, you have to show off your ability to not only deck build, but to be able to master every ink color there is, not just Ruby Sapphire or whatever it is you're playing and have been playing at DLCs. You now have to play 3 different core constructed decks in what they are calling triple deck constructed. So triple deck constructed. I'm gonna have to pull the image up for this one because this is a lot.
There's a lot going on here. Yeah.
It's so cool though, and it's going to be absolutely fun to watch. So again, the players are going to create 3 core constructed decks that use all 6 ink colors. So you cannot overlap. You cannot have 2 decks that use Sapphire. You cannot have 2 decks that use Sapphire. I hope you understand. You cannot have 2 decks that use Sapphire.
Okay. Sorry.
So you can have your Ruby Sapphire if you want it. You can even have your Blurple deck if you want. But those other 2 decks that you have to have a different mix of whatever remaining ink colors that you have left. So whether it's like, let's say that Blurple Amethyst Sapphire, and then you can have a Amber Steel, and then a Ruby Emerald. And a lot of players are definitely comfortable at the world's for area. You've made it through DLCs, you're at Worlds, you're definitely comfortable with at least one of those. So I think it's really a game of determining, do I stick with what I'm absolutely most comfortable with, or do I just want well-rounded decks that I know I can perform somewhat well with? It's going to be really interesting to watch and see what players bring. But the first matches are going to be a best of 3 series leading up to the actual finals. So we'll talk about the ones leading up first. They're a best of 3. You bring those 3 decks, and you're going to know what your opponent's decks are before you even play them. So then you also know you have their backstory, their information about how they got to Worlds, what they played at these DLCs. So these players, there's 20 some of them. By day 2, there won't really even be that many. So they're going to know each other pretty well. They're going to know their strengths. They're going to know what their weaknesses are, what they believe their weaknesses are at that time. So they're going to have this really cool thing of they're going to be able to like bench or ban one of the decks essentially that a player is using. So let's say DKP is there, and we know that he's killing it with his Ruby Sapphire deck. Instantly, I'm like, okay, I'm not letting you play that at all. You're not allowed to. I'm forcing you to get out of your comfort zone and play some other stuff. He then gets to do the exact same thing to you. So now, out of your 3 decks, you will have 2. So then you will have tokens that match the ink combinations of the decks that you were playing. And you will randomly select one. Well, it's not random to you. It's a random to your opponent. You will
Yeah.
secretly select one without your opponent knowing which one it is you're playing. And then almost in like a rock, paper, scissors type of way, it's all revealed at once of
Mhm.
what the matchup will be. And then you will play that game 1. If you win, you are done with that deck. Correct?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So the player that wins game 1, so if Dylan and I were playing and Dylan wins game 1, then Dylan would have to switch to his other non-benched
Yeah.
deck. So he would have to switch to the other deck.
Because the way that you ultimately win this is by winning 2 games. It's a best of 3, so you have to win with each of those 2 decks that you have. If you lose game 1, you get to choose whether you switch your deck or not, but you also get to choose whether you go first or not. So a little bit of an advantage, kind of. And again, there's a mind game thing there too. It's like if I know that my opponent is using what they're best with, maybe I just take the L game 1. That way, their deck that they're comfortable with or really really strong with it's gone and it's out of the way, and I don't have to deal with it anymore. So now I can just sit here and play the other 2 decks that maybe they're not as strong with.
Mhm.
It'll be very interesting. It's a lot of mind games. It's a chess game along with Lorcana.
Yeah, and it's important to too that if the player who lost game 1 ends up winning game 2, then a third game, the best of 3, is played with the remaining decks on both sides. So in order to progress, you have to win a game with each of your decks. So if you best your opponent with both your decks, then great, you're moving on. So there is that third and final game. So ultimately, the benching element, each ink combination, each deck will be played, and whoever is able to take the win on with both their decks, then that is what progresses you on to the grand finals. Which the grand finals follow something similar, but there's some other things around there, right, Dylan? So benching
Yeah, so there's
in
there's
grand
no
final.
benching. It's gone. Nope, benching is completely out of the windows. You cannot bench those decks. So again, if you know what your opponent is strongest with, there is no getting around not playing against that deck. You're going to be forced to play against what they're strongest with. So no benching at all, but it is a best of 5 series, kind of like the NBA Finals. So you have to win with all 3 of your decks. It is the first person to win 3 games, but once you win with one of your decks, that deck is now gone. You can no longer use that deck. So it's not like you can just use the deck you're best with and go in and win 3 games with it. You can play with it game 1, get it out of the way, or you can hold off and try to wait until it's a matchup in your favor. However you got to do it. Again, this is going to be a lot of chess going back and forth, but ultimately the way that you will become the first Lorcana World Champion is if you win 3 games using 3 different core constructed decks that uses all 6 ink colors all together.
I mean, I think it makes perfect sense. We saw the core constructed in DLC and the regionals, right? And then it's like, okay, let's flex with sealed a little bit. But I mean, it goes back that it's nice to see that the world champion will be crowned of not only their ability in sealed, but also their ability to master every ink type. And that I think is a phenomenal move, not only for the competitive scene, but also just the pure, like if we think about the whole meaning of a Lumineer to begin with, we are ink casters. We use all this ink of different colors to summon these glimmers. And I think it just goes so well with what Lorcana is at its core foundation. So I'm happy to see that. It's gonna be so fun to watch, though. Like I'm so excited to watch this because, like Dylan said, it's gonna be a mental mind game. Because Dylan makes a good point. What if you want to go ahead and let your opponent get the win with their one deck, depending on who's going? It's we are going to see mental warfare almost in a sense with these players, because again, everyone knows all the players. Now, there's some players who we haven't seen since they came in first place at DLC, like DLC Atlanta Joshua with the Fairy Dog Mother deck. Out of left field, we haven't seen or heard anything from him. If there is something out there, I've missed it, but I cannot wait to see what these players bring. Now, that being said, I don't know if we have confirmation on this, but I would like to think that the players playing in Worlds probably were under a non-disclosure agreement, and they've probably known about this for a while, because I can't imagine springing this on your competitors a month out. So I would like to think that those competing in Worlds probably had a little bit of a heads up.
Yeah, I think a couple of them have came out and said that
Oh, did they?
Ravensburger
Okay.
did give them. Yeah,
Okay, cool. Well, that's good on Ravensburger because that would be insane. But I'm excited to watch it. It's coming up very soon. No predictions really. You know, I think it's going to be fun to see who actually gets crowned that world champion Illumineer. The teaser card too. They teased the I believe it's the Golden Mickey World Champion card.
hmm
I have two needs in Lorcana: a Golden Mickey and an Iconic card, and I can't have both of them. So, um, hey, it's gonna be fun. But to put a lid on it, I think this is the right way to do it. Would you agree, Dylan?
I think so. I mean, it like you said, it truly does not. It represents the a master Illumineer, kind of like a master builder in Legos.
Yep, absolutely.
Weird reference there, but I mean, you're not just playing a same old deck that you're comfortable with and you're used to playing. It shows that your passion and your love for Lorcana as a whole, no matter the format, no matter what cards are in your hand, no matter what cards are in your deck, no matter what colors of ink that you are playing, the first ever champion will be someone that's my prediction. It'll be someone who truly cares about this game.
Yep,
Someone who loves Lorcana and truly is a master Illumineer.
it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun to watch. Live stream June 28th, I do believe. But before we move on here, I think another big piece of World's news was the whole new World promo, which is going to be made available. Now, obviously, this was announced at D23 last year, where before Worlds was a closed event. A non-foil version of this a whole new world promo would have been made available to those attending. Since then, obviously, Worlds is a closed event. It is not open to the public. Do not book your travel to Disney World because guess what? You cannot get in. There's no way to get in. It is just competitors, and I'm going to guess probably they're guessed. I'm guessing. I have no idea if that's the case, but just competitors at Disney World playing in Lorcana World Championship. But the whole new world promo, they did come out previously and confirm that the community, all of us, will be able to get our hands on this whole new world promo. Details were not shared. It's a non-foil whole new world promo. Details were not shared until the most recent Lorecast, where basically they have announced an Infinity weekend, the weekend of December 12th through the 14th at your local game shop. So what's going to happen is this is going to be a special event where local game shops will receive 40 of these non-foil A Whole New World promos. And by going and participating in one of these events, you will get the promo card as supply lasts, so 40 cards. I think 40 is a pretty good number. I think it's safe to say that most average game shops will probably be able to meet their demand. I know we have 25 on a set championship and 10 on a regular weekend. So look forward for that. Obviously, we are a very far ways out from December. So this is a little bit of a backtrack, I believe, and Dylan can correct me if I'm wrong, because there was a lot of speculation or maybe even some sort of evidence to show that there was going to be like watch events at local game shops. And I think it was kind of surprising to see it not take place during the World's weekend. I get it. They probably have like a gajillion of these promos to print. But the Infinity weekend, just like we mentioned in the previous podcast, whenever set rotations become a thing, a new format will begin, and that is Infinity, where no cards rotate out and they have their own separate ban list. So I would imagine that we will start to see how game shops are going to run this. Will they do additional pricing? I'm sure it's up to the store, but we're probably a few months out from beginning to hear about this. I mean, we're just at the beginning of June, so we are easily 6 months away from getting our hands on this promo. So keep your ear to the ground with your local game shop and social media and whatnot. We'll see how these stores are going to be running these events. And one final thing. Oh, go ahead, Dylan. Sorry.
Say some quick notes with this.
Yep.
This is actually the first of multiple Infinity weekends. They have came out and said in the Lorecast that this is not a one-off, that there will be more Infinity weekends in the future, because this is a format that they created that they do want their players to be able to play with all of their cards, even with set rotations happening. And secondly, although there will be a separate ban list in the future for Infinity Constructed, when this event takes place, Hiram and Fortisphere will be the two bans that are currently going on. So Infinity Constructed ban list will match the core constructed as of December, apparently, unless any news comes out between now and then and changes it.
Yeah. And I think another big piece of this, too, is it was also confirmed this week during the Lorecast that A Whole New World is not being reprinted. It will not be legal inside Core Constructed any longer. So, and what you see here is John putting his head into his desk, basically, over this. So I don't know if it was a slip up by Greg, but I was listening. Dylan and I were listening to it, and Greg had mentioned that it was going to be legal for Infinity, but not Core Constructed. And then immediately I go to Discord. I'm like, "Did you hear that?" He's like, "I thought I heard that too." And then Rochelle did go on Discord and did say that A Whole New World is not being reprinted. So I think this is the first card that we've been confirmed that is not being reprinted. We've had a few cards confirmed printed, but I think this is the first one or one of the first ones where it is not being reprinted. So what a way to go out with A Whole New World. And John, your thoughts and feelings on this, because I know you love this card so much.
I'm not allowed to speak on my feelings of this because it is a family-friendly show. And all I will say is if it's not getting reprinted, be prepared. Better not be getting reprinted either. That's a bunch of bullcrap. I mean, it is what it is. I mean,
yeah, it's a card game, right?
Yeah.
You know, and you're going to have to run beyond the horizon, you know, to get that card draw and everything else. So.
Right. Yeah. There's other things that that will come into play, but we'll see.
So yeah, so that was kind of the big news around Worlds and crazy formats. Whole New World promo. Glad to see that they're going to be making it available to the community. But speaking of set rotations, it's your final chance to do some really cool things in Lorcana. And have no fear, because Dylan's cooked up a last chance combos list. Dylan, your brain works differently than mine, because this is impressive what you put together. But what are some last chance combos we can see in Lorcana?
Yeah, so a lot of these last chance combos, the ones that I focused on specifically, are not just last chance combos, but first chance combos, because these are the combos that you can use using cards from Reign of Jafar with cards that were from sets 1 through 4. Granted, there is a huge, huge asterisk next to this because we don't know what cards are going to be reprinted yet. That has not been necessarily confirmed. And some of these, maybe they're not the last chance. Maybe you'll have other opportunities. And granted, there might be some last chance combos from Arcasia's Island or Azurite Sea, Shimmering Skies, and so forth. But I actually went and put together a list of just a couple of last chance combos using, again, cards from Reign of Jafar and cards from those first 4 sets that are about to be rotated out. And there's actually a entire article up on our website. I can't think of words. Yeah, sorry, so much going through the brain right now. Yeah, there's an article on our website on theinktable.com, hosted on the Gamers Lounge, that actually has the entire list of everything that I came up with, and I'm sure that there's a lot more that I missed out on. And if I did, let us know. Hop over on the Discord and point out some of all of these other last chance combos that we missed out on. But with only about 3 months before Fabled gets here, I think that it's a really good idea to look at these and play with your cards while you can, because you may not have the opportunity, kind of like a whole new world, to play with those cards any longer. So, just to show off a few of those combos, or a couple here that we got. The first one that I found, thought it was really interesting, was playing off of Dawn Carnage. So there is a new card that came out in this set called Mad Dog. He is a emerald card. He is Carnage's first mate, a 4/4 Storyborn ally pirate that, if you have a character named Dawn Carnage in play, you pay 1 less to play this character. So if Dawn Carnage is in play, he costs 3 instead of 4. Cool. How many Dawn Carnages are actually in all of Lorcana? Because I only counted 2. We have another one that came out, believe either this set or last set, that is a dual ink Emerald Still, wants to play off the Emerald Still Pirates. And then we have the OG Dawn Carnage that came out all the way back into the Inklands. He is an evasive 4/4 that quest for 2. And if this card does not get reprinted, which maybe it will, and maybe Mad Dog is kind of like stating or showing just a clue or a hint that this card will get reprinted. But if it doesn't, then Mad Dog will only have one other Dawn Carnage that he can work with until we get more later on in future sets.
It's almost like your genuine last chance. And I wonder, and I just did look it up too. Yeah, so there's only 2 Dawn Carnages, one of them being the one that just came out in the Dual Link. But yeah, the big thing is, again, we don't know, and as of right now, one's going away in 3 months.
So if you want to play that Emerald Steel Pirate deck and you want to play the Dawn Carnages and throw a Mad Dog in there, this could be your last chance to play that evasive one from Inklands. But then moving on to this second little combo that we found, this plays off of the new archetype that has came out in Emerald Ruby that wants to play off of damaged characters, or you having damaged characters, not necessarily the old Emerald Steel ping damage on your opponent's characters, but having damage on your own. So this set, we had Alice the Keyholder, who came out, that when you play this character, you may ready chosen damaged character of yours, and they can't quest for the rest of the turn. And then we also have the lovely Queen of Hearts, the haughty Monarch, 2/3 quest for 3, and while there are 5 or more characters with damage in play, that does not necessarily mean your opponent's characters or your characters, it's just in general, in play. This character gets +3 lore, so she would quest for a total of 6, which is insane because that's probably one of the highest quest totals that we have straight up on a card.
Yep.
like in that sense. Like
Without
we
much
have
time.
Mirabelle that quests for 5. We have Alice that can eventually quest for 5. The new Mickey that can quest for 5. Amatoa's done right; he can quest for infinity. But quest for 6 is the highest, or at least one of the highest that we've ever seen been able to quest for. So how do you pull this off? Because if you get this character on the field and your opponent knows its ability, the big issue that you're going to run into is your opponent now won't want to turn their character sideways at all. If there is a possibility that they are going to get damage on their characters, they're not going to turn their character sideways because they don't want you to be able to quest for 6. So to counter that, why not bring your own damaged characters? So going all the way back to Rise of the Floodborn and Ursula's Return, we actually have Mother Gothel, a beast, and Mulan, the injured soldier. And all of these characters, whenever they come into play, they interplay with damage already on them. So I think these cards, they were big staples back in the day in catch up mustard decks because they wanted to use the Rapunzel and other characters in order to heal this passive damage that they already have on them to get card draw off of it. This is essentially using the same idea, but instead of doing it to get card draw, you're doing it to get extra lore. And then you don't have to necessarily be afraid to quest with these characters even though they already have a lot of damage on them, because you can just play that Alice Keyholder, and then damaged characters of yours, you can just ready them.
It's interesting to see this to see this combination because again, I think this is an archetype that you and I have both experimented with to some degree. I know I've experimented with the Ruby Amethyst moving damage entirely, but yeah, bring out your own damaged characters and whatnot. It's a self-inflicted wound, if you will. Now that being said, it's an archetype that this is just two of what Dylan has put together. If you go to our Instagram, you should have all the images in that one post. If you check out the link on our website in the description on whatever platform you're listening to, we'll have it linked there. But it makes me wonder because we can see they've tried different deck archetypes over the months we've had this game, right? And it just makes me wonder, like, obviously, I think the fact that we got these cards in set 8, obviously, I don't think this whole damage archetype's going anywhere. But, notice how a lot of the characters that do interplay with damage on them are from previous sets. I don't think we've had any characters interplay with damage really since Simmering Skies, probably.
I can't think of
Could be
any.
wrong. I can't think of any. There's none off the top of my head, so it makes me wonder if maybe not to think that this is an early warning sign, but it makes you think if these are going to be reprinted. Because whenever we look at these cards together, we notice a theme, and the theme is that these are fairly older cards, and we haven't had anything enter with damage recently.
Maybe that's just something they're moving away from. I mean, I
Maybe.
truly don't know. And then again, just because a card may not get reprinted in this first set of rotations doesn't mean that they're not going to get reprinted rotations down the line. Because like a big thing that we'll also see is there are some archetypes that just don't exist at all the, like through sets 1 through 4. For instance, the racer deck, or the racer archetype, it didn't get introduced until set 5. So you're not going to miss any of your cards from the racer archetype. They won't be rotated out. They came out in Shimmering Skies, and you will continue to get cards to support them going forward. Okay, but whenever that eventually ends and we get into set 13 and the next 4 sets are rotated out, you might lose racers then. And then maybe these archetypes that went missing for a whole 4 sets, they might come back into play then. Just another way for them to diversify the game and try to keep everything fresh. Because not only are you rotating things out, but you're keeping them out of rotation long enough to make it feel fresh again whenever you reintroduce them.
Yep. The world is Ravensburger's oyster right now, and we don't know what direction it's going. But no, it is fun to see these because again, we have a variety of decks built and whatnot, and we are kind of holding our breath to see what survives the rotation and whatnot, what gets reprinted. But I know that we've talked a lot about Fabled so far, but obviously Fabled is on the horizon, and I think we've had quite a bit of news about Fabled since we have last joined together and whatnot. That being said, Fabled, kind of transitioning into our Fabled section here. We'll talk about what we think the story is going to do, where the story is going in a few moments. But let's talk about Fabled and what we have so far with Fabled. So again, Fabled is Disney Lorcana's 9th set coming out on August 29th for local game shop pre-release and September 5th everywhere else. Again, something that we are noticing with the Fabled release date is that there is only a 1 week gap between local game shop release and big box retailer release. So it appears that this is going to be a regular cadence going on. It's nice to give those local stores, those homegrown communities, the opportunity to sell this product ahead of big box. But it went from what, 2 weeks to 1 week? Is that what happened with Reign of Jafar? So once again, only a 1 week gap of exclusivity for the local game shops. Before we talk about the product and everything else, I have a slight bone to pick with some of the Fabled news, and I have written paragraphs in our team chat on Discord about this topic. And maybe it's just me, but I had a slight, I don't want to say issue, but it bothered me a little bit. I was slightly bothered that on Thursday, last Thursday, the day before Reign of Jafar released, the Lorecast, and folks, I love the Lorecast, Greg and crew. Thank you for doing them. But we talked a lot about Fabled the day before Reign of Jafar came out. And I don't know if that bothered anyone else on the team. I don't know if it's just a me thing, but I have been excited about Reign of Jafar. Jafar is such a cool villain. I don't know if he's my favorite because it goes back and forth with him and Hayes, but Jafar is such a cool villain. I feel more closer to Lorcana's story in Reign of Jafar than I ever have been because we sailed the Azurite Sea looking for Arcasia's island. We trained with Arcasia, and now Jafar's taken over. Like, I feel more deeply connected to the story, but it just felt so weird talking about the next set after their newest, Reign of Jafar, was getting ready to come out literally the next day. I appreciate the I know there's a good point where folks were really hungry for news, but that should have been all about Reign of Jafar, in my opinion. Did that bother you guys like it bothered me, or am I just being Preston?
No, I mean I feel that 100%. Pixar is not in Lorcana yet, so why are we doing this? Why do we just keep moving forward? I don't understand it. And audio listeners, you always get the cool titles, so maybe you'll understand this whenever I say that this, not us as Illumineers going and getting the Hexwell crown back from Jafar, but this, them talking about Fabled so much the way that they did the day before Reign of Jafar releases was the true heist of the century here. They were the ones that came in and stole the spotlight from Jafar whenever we were supposed to be going to Still in a Crown.
Yeah.
We hadn't even,
We
the
had
reign
no
hadn't even
product.
started yet.
Yeah, we had no product, and we were talking about Jafar, and we were talking about Fabled rather. So I had a few conversations with a couple other friends that played the game, and I want your all's thoughts on this because I haven't actually mentioned this to you all. But do we think that Fabled is getting a lot of attention because there's the risk that folks like us that have been playing since 2023 are not going to continue to buy maybe as much sealed product because of reprints? Obviously they need to continue to market to get new players into the game, but I don't know. It just seems like there's a very aggressive marketing strategy behind Fabled right now, and it felt weird being right before Jafar. But what do we? Not that we're trying to get into their heads, but I don't know. Is it just purely marketing, sales, numbers type stuff, or is it a to keep us enticed? I don't know.
I think it's a combination of everything. I mean, with
Mhm.
them doing a weekly lorecast now, and I hate to say it this way, the lorecast is not the lorecast. It's not the same lorecast we had before. It is the let me entice you and constantly move the needle forward of, okay, you've made it this far, but here's what comes next, or this is what you get to look forward to now, or this is what you get to look forward to in the future. It's keeping us at bay and keeping us happy. But you're right. I think that there is a lot of worry about how set rotations will affect this game since it's happening for the first time. And they not only want to keep the lines of communication open, which is awesome that we're doing because we didn't necessarily have a news drought. We had a communication drought for the longest time. And they're doing such an awesome job about keeping the communication going. And we say that the emphasis is on Fabled, but as we get closer to Fabled, I truly think that it'll be the same thing for the set after. Whispers in the Well, they'll be full force behind.
Yeah. And I think it's important to note too, we haven't mentioned why this bothered me so much. Because, yeah, they talked about Fabled right before Reign of Jafar, but they didn't just talk about Fabled the day before Reign of Jafar. They unveiled accessories, troves, boxes. Like, we got the full lineup. We have the full lineup now. And there's a few other things we'll mention as well. But, and again, I'm excited for Fabled and whatnot. But again, this was done literally hours before Reign of Jafar was supposed to release. But let's talk about the Fabled products that were announced in that lorecast. So first up is going to be the booster box and single packs. So we have the booster box. We again, beautiful. You have your mascot stars from the set. You have Mickey and Minnie. That's going to be inside that iconic card. And then you have your individual booster packs, which the art will contain Goofy and Max from Goofy Movie. We got Steamboat Willie, which I love Steamboat Willie so much. And then we got Cruella de Vil making their appearance on the booster pack as well. We do know that Powerline is coming, so we see Powerline and Max rather on the box as well. So white branding this time, very similar to Arcasia's Island aesthetic in a sense. But that being our individual booster packs and booster box. But
I think Powerline's on the individual packs with Max and Goofy as
yes, in
well.
the middle there, I see that now. Yep, it was kind of hidden
That
from
could
the picture I'm
potentially be a
looking at,
song.
but potentially could be. Yeah, so yeah, I feel bad about Powerline there because I saw Goofy Max, but the packet is
He
white and
blends
then it's
in.
like he blends in a little bit. So sorry, Powerline, I missed you there. You're kind of hidden there for a moment, especially at the angle this picture is at. So we know that those franchises are coming to Fable. Again, they talked about this literally hours before Reign of Jafar release. But next up is going to be the Trove, which I don't think the contents of the Trove have been revealed yet. I don't think. Okay. So we have the box, but no content, no dice markers, what have you. I don't know if that's a intentional decision, if they got something planned, but I think it may just be they teased it. They wanted to tease it, what have you. So Trove, this generally includes, you get the storage box, you get little ink dividers for organization, you get dice themed to the set, and then you also get a lore counter with 8 individual booster packs from the set. Also announced during the lore cast right before Reign of Jafar. Sorry, it bothers me that much, but the individual single player decks, which we do have some news around reprints here as well potentially. So taking a look at our booster, or not booster, but single player deck on the left, it looks like we have a Emerald Ruby single player deck featuring Powerline and Max. We can't see the exact abilities, but if you look on the right side of that box there on the left, you see that we have a Emerald Max and we have a red Powerline. And going CGI mega zoom and whatnot, it looks like that is going to be some sort of additional ability. And I think a lot of folks have looked at the pixels enough to come up with a very good hint that this is going to be potentially a singer Ruby card, maybe. I have seen some speculation. Obviously, it looks like Floodborn, so probably a shift. But Powerline, being an art musician in the Goofy movie, could this be the first Ruby singer? How do we feel about the potential of Ruby getting singers? Because that's historically been an Amber trait.
Well, well, I don't know. I hate to bring up Fortisphere, but like all the stuff that they continue to say about why cards were banned and the reasonings that they gave in the past where cards were banned because they didn't fit that card's or that ink's morals, I guess, or their archetype or what they stood for. So now getting a singer in Ruby, that's not ever what Ruby has stood for. So I get it. It fits Powerline, but that doesn't necessarily mean Powerline had to be a Ruby card. And I hate to complain about that because I'm happy that we have Powerline and I'm cool, make him a singer. And this goes back to the constant moving archetypes around type of thing or creating new archetypes or them adding new archetypes to the game to keep things fresh because now we'll see those ketchup mustard decks again, but we'll see ketchup mustard song decks.
Yeah. Again, it's speculation. We have no idea. But just kind of using context clues, it'd be kind of silly for Powerline not to have a singer effect. I don't know. We'll see. So Ruby Emerald single player deck. Next up, our other single player deck is going to be a Sapphire Amber single player deck featuring a new Mulan card in Sapphire. I don't think we have seen the full text of her ability yet. However, probably the biggest piece of news coming from this individual single player deck is take a look at who is slapped on the cover is going to be that Ariel. And many of you are probably going, wait a second, I remember that Ariel. So that is actually the Ariel Singing Mermaid from set 4. That was a Singer 7 card. And I think the community has taken this as a essential confirmation. And looking at the card there on the right side of the single player deck, from the text that we're able to see, it looks identical. Questing for 2, same art. So Ariel Singing Mermaid is being reprinted in Fabled. So add that to the small but growing lists of cards that are confirmed to be reprinted.
That Mulan, Preston, we actually have seen the full text of because because another one of the great things that they went ahead and did, which granted this one wasn't necessarily based around the lorecast, is we also know that Mulan will have an Enchanted in set 9.
Forgot about the Enchanted. I kind of erased that from my memory. But
yeah, I mean, but she's kind of like one of the first ones that we have so far. It's crazy because we've never gotten Enchanteds announced this early before in any set. So not only are we getting product news, we're getting Enchanteds already as well because what we already knew about the Honey Wizard, who will be an Enchanted next set. Okay, so now we have this Mulan, who is a Sapphire 5-cost inkable Mulan Considerate Diplomat. She is a 3/5 that quests for 2, and she has the ability in the top 4 cards of your deck, you may reveal a princess character card and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. So that single player deck being Amber Sapphire brings me back to whenever me and you very first played each other. My first deck I ever ran was a Amber Sapphire Princess deck. So seeing that archetype is finally getting some love, that's really cool. And maybe we'll actually start to see princesses pop off.
Yeah, potentially.
But not only did they reveal that Enchanted, but they also gave us a sneak peek at another Enchanted that that will be coming in set 9. We don't know the full text on this one, but they kind of like slid it out of one of these single player decks and announced that Lilo will be getting a Enchanted. We don't know her subtext or her subname. We just know that it will be a 3-cost inkable Lilo. The art is absolutely beautiful. She is in this astronaut outfit that reminds me a lot of the still Lilo that
Yep.
we got
The
maybe in
astronaut.
set 1. Yeah. So maybe we'll get a Floodborn version of that Lilo. That'd be cool. And in this art, you can see Stitch in the back on top of like a giant pillar in the background. So that's cool to see too.
So here's something I want to point out about this is technically the Enchanteds were previewed after Reign of Jafar release. Okay, I'll put down my pitchfork there. Like they let Reign of Jafar, but it was I forget what day it was, but it was very soon thereafter. I think we saw the Mulan as well. So again, still just like Dylan mentioned, it's still very early that we're getting these Enchanteds for this early for the very first time. Now that Jafar is out, I guess I'm okay going. Yep, go for it. You know, Wild West. It's fair game at this point. I'm okay with it, but still, I think a lot of it is just like Dylan mentioned, a combination of everything. Because we did have I believe in China and Japan, there were recent official sanctioned Ravensburger events where these were actually previewed and whatnot. So there is another element to this, which we don't have inside the show today, but they are doing promo packs in other regions and whatnot. We'll squeeze that into another episode and whatnot, but there is another version of this Enchanted Mulan, if you will. But again, it's not hitting the States and the North America market, so that's why we decided not to include it.
Yeah, I think it's a promo version over there because they're technically not on set 9 yet. So it's a promo of the set 9 Mulan, whereas for us it'll just be an Enchanted.
Okay, so it's like they're trying to catch the rest of the world. They're trying to give the rest of the world the things, but without putting them too far ahead on the timeline. Real briefly, because we're going to talk story, and we're going to have Lore Master Dylan is going to blow our minds out in a second. But with the with the remainder of the Fabled products, is we do have some new accessories per usual. And part of those accessories, I'm looking for the image on my side. There we go. So in that lore cast that again took place right before Reign of Jafar release, they did announce the playmats, deck boxes, and sleeves. So we now have 2 new playmats, going to be the Enchanted Mufasa, which, oh my goodness, what a card and what a playmat. That is the Mufasa, Ruler of Pride Rock from Shimmering Skies, the Enchanted version. A card that to this day is still valued at over $220 US and was probably one of the most coveted arts from that set if I were to predict. I think a lot of folks were very excited for that Mufasa card. But now playmat version, and then we also have a additional card, a Cinderella playmat. This is the Bippity Boppity Boo standard card from Rise of the Floodborn. So if we think back to, again, not to go a Disney history here, but Walt's favorite piece of animation was Cinderella's dress and whatnot, animating the dress and whatnot. On the Disney Wish cruise ship, there's a reason why the big chandelier in the atrium is reminiscent of Cinderella's dress. It was Walt's favorite piece of animation, and I think this is going to be a beautiful playmat for a lot of collectors out there. Lastly, we do have the Mulan standard version that we saw from Fabled getting sleeves and deck box. And we have Goofy, Max, and Powerline getting sleeves and a deck box as well. So those are your accessories that are going to be available with the release of Fabled on pre-release beginning August 29th. It feels like it's closer than what it is because it is. It's going to be here before we know it. Beautiful. I'm not a playmat person, but I will say the Mufasa looks pretty cool. One final
the
thing.
Cinderella's cool. Sorry, the Cinderella's cool
Go
because
for it.
typically that's an emerald card. But
Yes.
I think in this format or the addition of this during the set is if you go back to that princess archetype, if they're really building it around Amber Sapphire, it really kind of takes all of the emerald hues for the most part out of the playmat. So it'll just look really good with a princess deck.
Oh yeah, contrasting with that blue with the sleeves and whatnot, I think would be really fun to see play out. So no, princesses. Maybe we've had racers built on, we've had puppies built on. Princesses. Will Fable be the time of princesses? Hard to tell. Lastly, again with the new products coming out, is we do have a Fabled gift set. So this is actually different from the Fabled Collector Kickstart kit that has the Brave Little Tailor, but we will have a Elsa gift set that is actually going to be available with Fable. So this is very similar to that Lilo gift set that we had last set in Arcasia's Island, where you will receive a alternate art Elsa the Fifth Spirit, which is going to be printed on the deck box itself and also the promo card itself. Usually shines with some good glitter. You get some card dividers. And then it looks like you are going to also receive 5 random packs. Now, I don't recall the exact sets that these packs are being derived from. That I hate to put Dylan on the spot, but do we recall which of the 5, or do we know yet?
That's the thing is people asked because a lot of the stuff with the Lilo gift set, something we brought up in the past, is like, hey, you're giving us all these sets that are getting ready to be rotated out. So people were quick to ask whenever this was announced, what packs are they? And Greg was very, very adamant, Mr. Tito. I give him all due respect there, of not really answering. He kind of kept repeating and saying that they would be random packs, random previously released packs. That does not mean that it'll be from sets 5 moving forward. He did not specifically say that there is a chance that you could receive packs from the first chapter or Rise of the Floodborn or anything like that. My best guess, if I was to be a betting person, was it probably will be from set 5 and forward, unless they still have overstock. Yeah, unless they still have overstock and stuff that they need to get rid of Inklands or whatever else, which we know how much they have of it.
Yeah. I hope it is going to be in legal sets. If they include sets that have been rotated out, then we talked about this in the last episode, where clearly those booster bundles and the Lilo gift set was just to move old product that's about to be rotated out. So fingers crossed, and I hope it will be from sets legal and fabled and onwards. So I'm optimistic.
The big thing with this one is to note that it isn't releasing directly out like alongside of Fabled.
Yes.
For whatever reason, it's not the exact date the Fable comes out, but later on, I believe in October is when this will release.
Yeah. So we'll see that on shelves. I'll pick it up. Also, the Fifth Spirit's probably my favorite Amethyst cards in Blur Pool, so it'll be a nice little addition to the collection and whatnot.
So we got Amber and we got Amethyst. So if we're going down like the ink progression, and if we get another one of these sets, what's our next ink color that we hit? Is it Emerald?
I could see them probably hitting Emerald or Ruby, if I'm guessing. They've hit
there's a direct order that the cards go in.
Oh, that's right. There is.
Yeah. Is it Amber, Amethyst, Emerald, Ruby, Sapphire, Still?
You know what? I'm gonna Google their website real quick because I know they have inks in their attribute. It goes Amber, Amethyst, Emerald.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I think it's amber, purple, green, red, blue, and steel.
Actually, it's in alphabetical order.
Yeah, it's in alphabetical order.
Really? It's sick. So seeing that the first one was an Amber Lilo, and now we have the Amethyst Elsa Fifth Spirit. Again, if I was a betting man, I would say that The gift set to come out after this will most likely be a Emerald set.
So find that with your other Fabled products as we get into the holiday season and whatnot. Not to send us down another spiral, but it seemed like the enchanted pull rates in those gift boxes were pretty high too, because we pulled a piglet, enchanted piglet out of Lilo. But I guess all this to say, where do we go from here? Dylan, where do we go from here? This is overload. But where do we go from here?
We got to get ahead of this because, again, Reign of Jafar wasn't even out, and they were already talking about Fabled. It'll be next week, and they will be talking about Whispers in the Well. And the week after that, they'll turn around and probably in a month at Gen Con, we'll know what sets 13 and through 14 are, which big things coming there. Which they did say that at Gen Con, they will start showcasing actual, like, more cards coming for Fabled. Which we'll talk more about Gen Con at some other point. But to get ahead of the curve, I think it's important for us to go ahead and look and predict of what we think is going to be coming in the future within Fabled, within Whispers in the Well, and going forward. So I think you may have hinted at this in our last episode. We talked a lot about it. And I do have to go ahead and apologize because I know that we, like, to our community members who follow along and listen, and if you made it this far, then you're one of those, and 100% respect. But we made an announcement that we were supposed to actually be teaming up with another group of Lorcana content creators known as Lorcana Heat, who are doing really, really big things right now, especially putting together their watch party and stuff. There was some scheduling issues that came about that made it to where we couldn't get together in that podcast episode like we announced that we were going to. But in that episode, we were going to predict the future or fantasy book what we thought was going to happen. So me and Preston we're still going to go ahead and do that because I think that's an important thing for us to do. And Preston was super excited in that last episode so much, talking about what this overlapping idea that I think me and him both kind of share. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let him talk about that real quick. But it's this idea of time.
Yeah. Dylan has receipts because, spoiler, how we structure our show notes and whatnot is we put all the images that you all are seeing on the video portion in a Google Drive folder. So I see what Dylan's added, but I think that as we start to get into Fabled, and I know that we had some hints with the lore cards that Dylan's going to talk about, but I think we will start to see, obviously, not only the rise of our next big villain, but I think with Fabled and Whispers in the Well, that very unique splash art they gave us where I'm going to call it Steampunk Mickey was looking at what looked like reminiscence of scrolls and whatnot. I think we, to some degree, just a very general high-level prediction, I think we're going to start messing with time. Old stories, not necessarily time travel per se, because that would get really weird, but I think we're going to start starting to dig deep with old original stories in the Disney IP. I truly think with Pixar coming up, I think we are going to really start to time warp a little bit and start playing with time. But that's my big one. I know Dylan has receipts, but John, the story going forward, where's your head at?
I don't know.
Good talk.
I mean, I don't have a clue. I mean, at this point, it could go 6 ways of Sunday. I mean,
all you know is that a whole new world is not getting reprinted.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I when I try to think of where the story's going, all I can think of is that that meme you see of "It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia" with the guy with all the red lines going every which way. It's like I don't know. I don't have a clue. So at this point,
put one on the wall.
Yeah. So at this point, I'm just along for the ride. Whatever I find out, I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. But yeah, time sounds good, but sure.
But Lore Master Dylan, what receipts do we have in the cards, in our lore cards? Where are we going?
first, I think we should start with this battle that is currently taking place, the Reign of Jafar that we are finally in. You said that you started the Illumineers quest this time, the Palace Heist.
Yep,
Did
sure
not
did.
finish it.
So we
I
have
haven't.
we have failed right before we recorded today. We tried it. We're gonna have to probably break out some different decks, but there's a lot of art that I'm still deciphering through. But yeah, we haven't beat it yet.
I haven't even purchased it yet at all. I'm excited to, but I'm kind of waiting right now. I just haven't had a lot of time with Summer Game Fest and release weekend and a lot of stuff going on to actually sit down and play. But I do have a big prediction. So this isn't necessarily a spoiler, or at least I hope it's not a spoiler. But I have a prediction as to what the prize might be. But if you go back to the first Illumineers quest, which I guess, I mean, technically it's not a spoiler anymore, right? I mean, we're chasing down the crown, trying to get it back now. But whenever you beat the first Illumineers quest, you took that gold pack and opened it, and you were revealed an item card that was the half Hexwell crown that we took at one point was the whole Hexwell crown that Ursula had, and now Jafar has. And that was an item that was from a future set. So I think that we will once again get something that is from a future set if I was making a prediction. And I think it's cool to have this idea of an item that lasts over time. So I think the big, if it is an item, the item that I think it would be is the hourglass. So we know that there is an hourglass that Jafar has trapped Arcasia in. We see it within the lore cards that Arcasia was trapped within an hourglass filled with sand. We see that all of the Enchanteds from this set are filled with different sand. And even the Ravensburger team has came out and said that they had this appearance as if someone, or Jafar or whoever, was looking through the hourglass to see all of these. So in my head, I just have this image of the entire Arcasia's Island, the entire palace, covered in this illusion, and then all of a sudden that hourglass being broken during the Illumineers heist. And all of that sand and that illusionary sand magic just coming together and transforming and just subsiding away, and all of it slowly starting to vanish away from the illusions as everything comes back to normal or starts to go back to normal on the island. But in the mayhem of that, I can see the sand and the magic and the power of that hourglass going a little haywire. And that causing us to potentially go back in time or see back in time. It's like the sands of the past almost. That time manipulation of the hourglass. That's how we get to the time manipulation, is through the sand and the hourglass. And that would bring us into Fabled. That allows us to see cards like Steamboat Willie, which I know we have a Steamboat Willie card already, but stuff like that, or the new iconic cards we see, I mean, those are classic Disney art. And granted, we'll have Powerline and stuff as well, but I think, like, you're right, we'll have more of that classic art style from some of these older cartoons and movies and stuff. So then the second thing is the next big bad. Who is the next big bad? I think a lot of people within the community are on board with this, but I think it'll be Hades. Yeah, there's a couple of reasons as to why. For one, he's got a card that came out in this set that talks about how he has all the leverage now. But I think it was all the way back. We might have this card in the assets, John. I don't know if we do or not. But there was a 4-cost Sapphire card that came out in set 4 in Ursula's Return. And by God, this card's got so much flavor text on it. It's ridiculous. Like, if you're looking for story, I mean, this card alone. But the flavor text reads, "This neat little scheme has Ursula's tentacles all over it. That sneaky Sneewitch. Wait, I can use this. She can keep those obnoxious Illumineers busy while I roll out my own plan." So, since set 4, Hades has been meticulously plotting and thinking stuff out, and even in that that image of Hades. I mean, he is the meticulous plotter. He's got a whole chessboard in front of him, plotting things out of what his next moves are going to be. He's 3 and 4 steps ahead. So even as Jafar's doing his thing and we're battling Ursula, Hades is prepping. And now all of a sudden in this set, he has all the leverage now. This is also the first set that we see he takes control of. He took control of Megara.
Yep.
So then the last thing that I think with the future of Lorcana, Whispers of the Past, I truly think that if you go back to that image in Whispers of the Well, we pointed it out last time, that every one of those, what we presume are whispers, had glimmers on them from cards that we had in past sets. So it's, again, time. They are whispers of the past. So then, past. There is a character within Lorcana who has been introduced, and a lot of newer players don't even know who Arcasia is because they don't know this story or this lore. And I would absolutely love for us to, at some point, create an addition to our YouTube channel or to our brand as the Ink Table and put together short videos that goes over the lore timeline wise from the beginning to catch people up, because there's so many people that don't know. Even on Facebook the other day, there was someone was like, who is this? Who is Arcasia?
I was going to mention that, and I want to say that I know we got a lot of new followers from that post, but literally somebody in the big Disney Lorcana Facebook group took a screenshot of Arcasia and was like, who is this? I would think we were leaving our game shop from League, and I sent it to Dylan, and I was like, your time to shine. And Dylan delivered. He put that thing on a silver platter with all the garnish and sparklers on it. Explained who Arcasia was. I think it had like 50 something engagement likes of some nature. And I remember the folks in that going, wow, like what? So that was insane to watch play out. But it's so rich.
Just so many people that they come into this game because the IP of Disney. But now that Ravensburger has went above and beyond and out of their way, and there is a fantastic, I think you sent this to me as well, but there is a fantastic interview. Was it with Steve Warner or Ryan Miller that Lorcana Villain did?
Steve Warner.
Okay, so he did one great for anybody. You should definitely go and watch it. It's all about the community side of Lorcana, not necessarily competitive play, and this introduction of all the lore that they've had from the beginning, how Ravensburger goes about explaining the lore, and this introduction of Arcasia, who is not a Disney IP. So no matter if you're the biggest Disney fan or not, you have no clue who Arcasia is. So they are building this lore in this world completely from scratch in some way, shape, or form. And I think that there's a lot of hidden stuff that people don't know yet that they are setting up and they are prepping. So just quickly go back and look at the past whenever it comes to Arcasia. There are a couple of lore cards. And since they've introduced these lore cards, I've frothed at the mouth waiting and reading and going over these cards. But the first one actually came out last set in Arcasia's Island. It is card number 13. So looking over it real quick, at one point, this exchange occurs whenever Arcasia first meets the Illumineers. And she's like, she feels great. She's like, it's nice to have a friend again, especially a fellow Illumineer. She then added, so low that Shanzi could barely hear. Maybe this time it will go better. So we know that Arcasia isn't just a character, but a character who has existed in this world for a long time, who is a Illumineer in her own right, who is the owner of the Hidden Ink Caster. But now we know that she has this depth and this history and this past. And she's been there for a long, long time. And she's worked with Illumineers before. And she's almost hesitant whenever she meets these Illumineers because something went down and something happened. And she's like, maybe this time will go better. And then Shanzi replies, what do you mean? Oh, nothing. Arcasia stands up. It was a long time ago. Come, let's resume our lesson as she teaches us how to dual wield ink. So, long time ago, in a Lorcana far, far away, Arcasia was up to something with some other Illumineers, and things did not go well at all. But what was that? And then this set, there was a lore card that came out, and it was lore card number 18. And I think I pointed this one out to Preston too. I was like, yeah, these lore cards are great, but that one in particular, that's probably the most important
Yes.
one. So in this one, it says that Arcasia wistfully watched their exchange, then closed her eyes. I never should have let things fester with my friend long ago. So once again, this is two sets, two different lore cards back to back that Arcasia is bringing up her past, something that happened with her friends long ago. And again, she says all of this in a low voice. That way people don't really hear her. So it makes me think that in future sets, whether it's Fabled, whether it's Whispers in the Well, seeing these whispers of the past, we are going to get a glimpse into Arcasia's past, who her friends were, what went wrong, and if you remember all the way back whenever this game first came into existence, when the three Illumineers showed up to the Great Illuminary, the place was a wreck. It was messed up. So does that go back to whatever went wrong with Arcasia and why it was empty in the first place? Because the only person we really saw there at the time was a Mickey Glimmer that said hi and hello to everybody.
Welcome
and
in.
was her friend the most important character in all of Lorcana? Which I will say this, and people are going to be like, "Who's that?" Was it the curator, who was the original curator of the Great Illuminary?
That's deep. That is deep.
I blew John's mind.
Y'all can't see John, but John's like,
no, you didn't blow my mind. I apologize to the video viewers. That was a whole mess of stuff on the screen. It really, I lost. Yeah, the card was so big. I lost. I tried to keep up with it. It was so I finally caught up, and I'm just sitting here going. Oh.
It's interesting that obviously something has gone wrong, and we've had two sets now where Arcasia meeting the Illumineers were hesitant, and then in Reign of Jafar, in the midst of the situation of Jafar taking over Arcasia's island with the Hexwell crown, she's like, I should have never let these things fester with my friend long ago. So it's almost like this has happened, almost like history is repeating itself a little bit. Like this has happened previously, or something is similar to what happened previously. So again, we don't know what is in that prize card in Palace Heist. I hope to maybe earn it this evening. I don't know. I will. We're not going to spoil it here, but yeah, I think it's almost like Arcasia was like a big like anchor point. Like she is now a character that we have had. If we think back, the sets have been very siloed, right? We had the first chapter, we had the Rise of the Floodborn. The flood was the flood, it happened, and then we had Into the Inklings. And then from Into the Inklings, yeah, we had a little bit of overlap. Then we had Ursula's Return. We're Shimmering Skies are celebrating. We have Sail the Azurite Sea, looking for Arcasia, and now we're in Jafar, still with Arcasia. So I think this is the first time we have been with a story anchor, if you will, Arcasia in this case, for 3 sets now. So I think time is going to be that big. We're going to see something happen with time. I would agree. But these lore cards, I still miss the animated videos though. That they the set previews. I miss those so much.
Yeah, those were great, and maybe one day we'll get something. Whether it's more of those, a long form movie,
Book,
short book, graphic novel. I mean, I would love a graphic novel based on all of this. Just even a series, even if it's a standalone. In the end, right after so many sets for different story arcs, maybe a comic book. there's so
You
many
know,
different ways that they can go and wonderful artists that they can have that can contribute to make this. And Ravensburger knows that people will eat it up and buy it. And you have us in the palm of your hands. We love this story. We love the lore. We love everything that you have built. I mean, the thing, the Hidden Inkcaster came out in set 4. We didn't know who
wow,
that belonged to.
really cool.
And
This
I'm
is cool,
so
I guess.
excited to see where the story goes from here and to look back sets from now to see what you guys have set up that we've completely missed out on.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll soon find out in 3 months. Maybe on Lorecast, get some stuff in his head. Who knows? But no, folks, it has been a very busy month. It's been a very busy week with Reign of Jafar. We're taking back the Hexwell crown. We are looking into the future. But we need to get back into our regular cadence. And one thing we love to do on the show is a little bit of Disney trivia where Dylan absolutely steamrolls me every single week in
That's
trivia
not
because
true.
I'm still catching up. But we like to do some trivia. So, John, take us away.
Oh, wait. I got a bumper. Oh, it's going to keep playing.
Oh, it's looping.
Okay, it's just going to keep going there. All right. Wow, I'm still learning how to use this thing. Yeah, that card was way too big, and I any viewer of the YouTube video that wanted to try to read that, I'm real sorry. I was trying to shrink it, and it disappeared off my screen, and I couldn't get it back. I had to make a whole new thing. It was on the fly. It was terrible. But yeah,
Do it live.
Whew, yeah, that wasn't.
Hopefully, I did a good job of reading it.
Yeah, I hope you did too, because I wasn't listening. I was I have to go back and listen to it because I didn't hear a word you said. So you said you blew my mind. No, you didn't blow my mind. I blew
It's
my
6
own.
p.m. on Sunday. We're all tired at this point.
Yeah, it was something. I don't know what happened. That picture was way too big. But anyway, like we always do, we have Disney trivia. We'll go back and forth. If you answer a question, you get a point. If you miss it, the other person gets a chance to steal that point. I don't know if this is right. I'm going to have to go back and look. It's 5-2, Dylan. That doesn't sound right.
No, that sounds right. No, that sounds right.
Okay, all right. Well, I think Dylan won the last match. I need to get a tablet. This piece of paper is getting full.
Hear me out with this Disney trivia. I know we've talked in the past of like when to restart this. How do we feel about doing it at our 1 year mark? I mean, we're 6 months in.
That's fine.
You still got time to catch up.
Yeah.
And then we'll set that as like we'll have a grand finale at the end, and maybe we'll do some crazy shenanigans where instead of just worth 1 point, we'll have stuff that's like worth one whole win or something. That way we can really make it a close game.
Yeah, that's cool.
Sure.
Yeah, we can do that. I've got other stuff in mind too for the next one, so well, that'll be next year. So that'll give me time to work on it because it'll probably take me about that long to get it. So, all right, Preston, we're going to start with you. I'm going to read this. Okay. I always say I'm going to throw you a softball, but I'm not going to say that this time. So.
Yeah, I've thrown before. So
At the beginning of the song, "Can You Feel the Love Tonight" in The Lion King, who are the two characters that lament the loss of their friend to love?
I'm just kidding. I'm holding on to suspense on purpose.
Oh, okay.
No. One was Simba, obviously. No. Wait. No.
Let me read this again. Let me read it again. At the beginning of the song, "Can You Feel the Love Tonight" in The Lion King, what two characters lament over the loss of their friend to love?
I literally haven't seen Lion King in such a long time. Dylan, who is it? Because I haven't seen it in such a long time. Oh no, you're gonna say I'm gonna know. I just
Simba was the one who was newly in love with Nala, who randomly showed up, and kind of broke up the bromance with Simba and Timon and Pumbaa.
Yes, it was Timon and Pumbaa.
And,
Yep. What a shame.
yikes.
Every
Big
time that I... Oh, never mind. Not in front of the kids.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Dylan. In Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
It took me a minute.
Yeah. You know where I was going. In Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Snow White falls asleep in the beds of which three dwarves? Well,
I mean, not in front of the kids, right?
yeah.
Jesus, 3?
Yeah. She slept over 3 beds. Which 3 dwarves did she sleep over? The beds, not the dwarves.
I have no clue. I have no clue on this one. I don't even know what the percentage chance would be if I was to guess 3 out of the 7 dwarves.
Low.
I'm just gonna think of. Well, I don't think it'll be Sleepy because I think Sleepy would be in his own bed, right? He's not giving that up. So maybe Doc, because he seems like he would help out. Maybe not Bashful because he'd be too shy.
Well, huh?
So I don't know. Maybe okay. So Doc, Grumpy, and Dopey.
No. You haven't seen Snow White in a long time, have you? Because they weren't in the bed
I don't
when
think
she
I've ever
was
seen
sleeping.
Snow White.
They weren't in the bed when she was sleeping. She comes into the house and lays down in their beds to sleep while they're out working.
Listen, I've rode 7 Dwarfs Mine Train.
Okay, all right.
That's my-
Preston, do you want to give a shot at three dwarf names?
Doc, Bashful, and Grumpy.
Oh, you were close. It was Grumpy, Bashful, and Sleepy.
Okay. Very good.
She comes in and lays across
See,
the
I
beds
applied
because
the
they're
Sleepy
small.
methodology because I was like, nah, Sleepy's not going to be hanging out with anybody. So I applied that same methodology.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, here's a new question, Preston. In the Muppets Take Manhattan, what is the name of the show Kermit wants to produce? It's a multiple choice.
Okay, I can guess at least. So
Yeah. So is it A, Hello Manhattan, B, Manhattan Melodies, C, Let's Take Manhattan, or D, Merry Melodies?
I don't think it's D. I'm going to go with A.
Incorrect. Dylan, do you know which one it is? Do you need them again?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I don't know, but I think I have a pretty good idea.
Okay.
R.I.P. Muppet Vision.
Yep.
I think it's.
Gone but never gone.
Yeah.
I think it was Manhattan Melodies.
That is correct. It was Manhattan Melodies. All right. So there's 2 questions left. You still have a chance to tie up, Preston. I don't know, Dylan. This one's pretty easy. Who voices Maui in Moana?
Dwayne The Rock Johnson. I at least know that one.
Well, that was Dylan's. That was, but yeah, I mean.
Oh, was it really? Oh, dude, my bad.
Well, thank God you gave me the answer because I didn't know that.
I heard Preston.
The most
electrifying.
electrifying.
I would like to think that Dylan would have had that one. So.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe.
that one was too easy. So okay.
Can
All
you
right.
Sorry, Dylan. No, I listen. I'm tired at this point. Like my brain's smooth at this point.
All right. One last question, Preston. In Finding Nemo, in Finding Nemo, Bruce the Great White Shark has a motto. What is it?
Fish are friends, not food.
That is correct. Hey, he redeemed himself. At least he got that one right. All right, that's all I got. Dylan wins again.
Oh, again, listen. Like I am good on a lot of my I say modern Disney, but I really need to go back and watch a lot of this stuff again because it's been forever for me. But anyway, folks, obviously, thank you all so much for tuning into episode 11 of the Ink Table podcast, where we are definitely on this great heist, and it is well underway. But Fabled is right around the corner. I say right around the corner. It's going to be here before we know it. So, but good luck in your first weeks of organized play, core constructed, and any tournaments that might be taking place out there. we wish you all luck, and hopefully you all are having just as much fun in Reign of Jafar as we are. My goal is this evening to try to go get the crown back, so keep y'all posted. But folks, obviously, feel free to connect with us. Feel free to leave a rating, review, like, subscribe, what have you, on whichever platform you are watching on. It definitely helps us quite a bit, more than you can ever imagine. So, as always, you are able to connect with the podcast by emailing us at podcast@theinktable.com. You can also leave us a voicemail at voiceline.app/theinktable. All of our socials are obviously linked inside our link tree, which is going to be in the description of whatever platform you are listening on. But Linktree is going to host all of the articles that Dylan had mentioned, and also the new episodes to all the different platforms as well. You can follow me on YouTube, which I'm neglecting that Inktable is my main focus right now, but on YouTube at Preston McNair for more Lorcana content from like months ago. And also Dylan on Twitter, which is DylanBA17. I think we're on Blue Sky as well. We'll put that in the link tree in the description. But also grab your seats and claim your seat at the Inktable official Discord, which while we've been recording this, some folks have already trickled in. So welcome in. We'll have that inside of the description and also our link tree as well. So, as always, folks, thank you all so much for listening. Also, be sure to watch out for the standalone clips that will be derived from this video, and also all the articles and whatnot coming very soon. So, folks, again, thanks for joining us this week, and there will always be a C for you at our Inked. See y'all next time.
Bye, guys. Play with your cards.